Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Melissa Sanabria, and welcome to my home in Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
I'm Melissa Sanabria, and welcome to my row home in Washington, D.C., and I can't wait to show you around. I have lived in this home for about 12 years, and I live here with my husband, Alberto, our daughter, our dog, who's a little crazy, and my mom. So it's a full house. I live in Capitol Hill, and what a lot of people don't know is Capitol Hill is actually the largest neighborhood in DC. It's very residential here. It's a lot of row homes. So when I first started to visit the Hill, I felt it reminded me a lot of Europe, and just that really appealed to me. We live in the historic district, and a lot of these homes were built around the late 1800s. So that's pretty common here for the architecture. It's a lot of Victorian row homes that were popular at the time. And it's very family friendly, lots of families, lots of kids, lots of dogs. And it's a little sleepy at night, but we really love that. And then we have, great proximity to the mall and the Capitol and all the museums. So it feels like a little village in the city is how a lot of people describe it. You kind of can't walk down the street without seeing a neighbor and running into family and friends. That's what we really love about it here. So this is the living room. You walk into the house and kind of step right into the living room, which is pretty typical in these row homes. In my home, as I mentioned, this home actually was a flip. And so many years ago, they did take out all the walls, which is kind of sad. So you see the way that the house is laid out, which is pretty typical, and you can see right from the front all the way through to the back. So you come into the living area, and then we have the dining room, and then the kitchen is in the back of the home with access to the rear. When I renovated it, we were used to having it all be open, so we kept it that way. I kind of dreamed of putting some walls back in, but just the reality was the way we live, this did work for our family, so I left it that way and focused on putting in other details to try to make it feel special. So here in the living room, when you come in, the focal point of the living room is the fireplace. When we bought the house, this fireplace did not look this way. So they tore it out, it doesn't function. We didn't invest in making it operable again, but what we did was we did invest in a vintage mantle, and we sourced this with a company called Mantle House here in DC. It's another woman-owned business that we love. And this mantle is the same period as the house. So it's like late 1800s. This house was built in 1865. So it feels like this is, the goal was to make it feel like this belongs here. And this is a piece you might have actually found in this home had it not been kind of torn apart many years ago. So kind of part of putting back that charm was adding the beautiful vintage mantle here. And I really wanted this to be a focal point in the space. One of the other things we did here was added these built-in bookshelves flanking the fireplace. So here, I designed these in partnership with Jewett Farms. They make incredible cabinetry. They're based up in Maine. We have a lot of books, and a lot of people in DC have a lot of books. So it's pretty typical. What you'll see in especially DC row homes is like fireplace built-ins for all of our stuff and all of our books. So down here, in the bottom, this gives us additional space for storage. We did walnut here with like this pretty curve on, I don't know if you can see like this curved detail on this closed cabinet at the base. We designed this to mimic the curve in the fireplace as well. So we just kind of like repeated this soft curve here. So they kind of speak to each other. Even though this is a little more modern and feels a little updated, it just kind of speaks to that bit of architecture. So we did all of this in walnut, and then we wanted to bring in some color, so I did the surround in green. This is Turtle Green by Benjamin Moore. I love this color. So these are some of my favorite pieces in the space, and again, they just give us lots of storage, super functional. I have all my daughter's like art supplies and all that stuff in here too, which is great. Yeah, this side, same situation. We don't have our TV on this side, so you might have noticed over here we have our frame TV. So it's not quite the focal point in the room, but this is where we sit and hang out and watch TV. This side is more just book storage, and again, additional storage below. These bookshelves, I feel like they're so beautiful, and then I realized, oh, now I have to style them, which styling bookshelves like is an art form and really is very time consuming. So if you're challenged with doing it, like there's a good reason, because it can be really challenging. So I'll talk a little bit about what we have here and then how we styled it. So a lot of the books that you see, it's a total mix of my books and my husband's books that we've been lugging around with us for years. They're very meaningful to us. We both, my husband still like works in finance, and we both are economics nerds. So a lot of what you see on here, there's a lot of econ books, which is kind of funny and unexpected. One of these books that I wrote, this is my first publication. It's very interesting. If you're looking for a good read to fall asleep to, this is a book I wrote many, many years ago. So that's on the shelves. And then the way that we approached it, because we have so much stuff and so many books, but we also have some fun little objects. What I really like when I'm styling bookshelves is like I want them to feel full, and you want your eye to move around. And I like to have little surprises in here. So we have some fun little things, like we have this little Albert Einstein action figure, which I got when I lived in Princeton, New Jersey. I was living there when I was working in New York many years ago, and I love him, and he's just kind of weird. And then some other little, just like special bits of like ceramics. These are just some pretty brass, like vintage bookends that I have had for many years. And then actually like working hard to make this feel like really kind of organic. So I focus a lot like on the shapes and the colors to make sure, again, that your eye is moving around the bookshelves and not kind of getting stuck in one spot. So my husband, it drives him nuts that these aren't actually categorized by topic, because that's what he would like. But really it's aesthetic and just kind of making sure like there's variety and height, and then like some objects throughout. Storage is the name of the game here in these houses. We don't have any closets. So that's like a pretty way for us to include that on this floor. So in the bay window, this is a space actually, this is a very common feature, especially in these Victorian row homes, which are super common here in DC. A lot of people don't know what to do with this bay window because it's sort of like off your main living area and it's a little bit awkward. What we use it for is, this is like, I call it my daughter's command center. So she really spends the most time here. This is where like she likes to draw and journal, and like she'll sit and have a snack after school. So like, you know, my neighbor who could see her next door, she always called it her command center because she could see her from the windows, like say hi to the neighbors. So this is really her spot. It's also the spot where my dog, it's also when my daughter's not home, it's our dog's command center. So she likes to, you know, just like prop up and like look out the window. Sometimes for me too, I'll sit, like if I'm working from home, I do take calls from here. It's nice and sunny. So most of the stuff that I have, especially on this main floor, is vintage. So these chairs I got from First Dibs and then reupholstered them in fabric that I actually had left over from a little custom lampshade that's in the kitchen. So we had extra fabric, and so that went on these guys. I bought these two as a pair. And then this little table in the center, this guy I bought at our local flea market over at Eastern Market, right here in the neighborhood. And it was from an estate sale. It was like a super good deal. So this is from the flea. And then these are just really inexpensive First Dibs finds that we recovered. So my path to interior design is not a traditional route. So I was working in financial services. I was an economist by trade and by education. So I did that for about 15 years. And I was just reaching a point in my career where I was really just looking for something else that's more fulfilling. And I guess it was a long time coming. Design and interiors were something that I always really valued and were really important to me. And friends would ask me like, oh, where did you get this? And where did you, find this piece? And I always loved shopping for vintage and So I started a blog and I just started to share all of that information since I would get those questions a lot. And I was like, maybe this is something people would find interesting. So I kind of started that way. I worked with a leadership coach who helped me with visioning and kind of figuring out my path. So I made the move gradually, and when I kind of started to feel like I had some traction with my blog and I just started taking some small projects on, I did some renovations on my own, and I was really trying to learn on my own dime, kind of making mistakes on my own house. And I started to get some traction, and I felt like there was enough there that I was ready to make a change. In the meantime as well, I had my daughter, so that just gave me a lot of perspective, and I realized that I wanted to also be more of a part of my local community. In my job previously, I traveled all the time. And so I just felt this like longing to be more part of my community, be home more for my daughter. And I thought, if I'm working so hard, like I want to be doing something that I feel really proud of. So I decided to, after, getting some traction, resigning from my job. I was working as a consultant, resigned from that job and just started to take on projects, and it kind of grew from there. And always kind of going into it with the intention of, I knew I wanted to work with a team. I wanted to have, create a work culture for women. That was also important to me. I came from a male-dominated field, so kind of had this vision for what kind of business I wanted to run, and just wanting to really serve my community, and design was the way I wanted to do that. So in the living room, the color palette that I have out here, a lot of it, honestly, it's like what I just tend to naturally gravitate toward and what I find I'm really liking. With this sofa, we actually installed a similar color sofa on a project not too long ago, and I just became obsessed with it and fell in love with it. And so I got one for myself, and I thought it was perfect for this space. And I also used, on the floor here, I have this vintage rug that I've had for years, and it has beautiful blues and browns and taupey colors in it. And so that is also a jumping off point. I love that I can just pull different colors from that and then use that to kind of pull them through the room. It's a little challenging when these homes, when you have no walls and everything has to work together. And so just always keeping that in mind and making sure everything really speaks to each other was important. So you'll kind of see some of these things also repeated in the kitchen and the dining room as we move through the spaces. But I like to keep the walls just kind of fresh and feeling simple, because I tend to gravitate toward dark woods and some of these warmer colors. So by keeping the walls more neutral, when I'm selecting fabrics and accessories, that's where I'm going to gravitate toward color and pattern. And so having a more neutral backdrop, knowing that that's kind of where I'm going to lean as I'm sourcing furniture, allows me to keep that balance so it doesn't all feel too heavy, and the walls feel a little bit lighter. And then I bring in velvets and some warmer tones and stuff in the furniture pieces. So in terms of some of the furniture and what I have in here, as I mentioned, a lot of it is vintage and just things I've collected over the years, which I find, when I just truly love a piece, it feels timeless and it doesn't go out of style. So, even I have this Nelson bubble lamp. This is classic, mid-century. I love it. I've had it for so many years. It's probably, it's vintage now, but I bought it new. But I've had it for such a long time, and it just continues to serve me, and I love it. I love the glow. I think it's perfect. I have this same, this coffee table that I have here. Super functional. This is a vintage piece I've had for years. It has little drawers. We can stash our playing cards and little notebooks and pens, pencils, coasters, all stash in there. So this just, again, continues to work for us. No need to get something new. Other pieces in here I have this chair. This is also vintage. This one I sourced on First Dibs. Some of the other pieces, I don't even remember where I got this coffee table. I've had it for so long, but this was a First Dibs piece. I had it recovered in this is a Zac and Fox, kind of an eggplant velvet that I'm obsessed with. My dog immediately started to chew on this chair because she loves it. So you might see that, but this is one of my favorite pieces in the room too. Super loungy and casual. I've lived in this home for about 12 years. When we initially bought it, my husband and I had just gotten married, and this house had been flipped a few years before. So it did not have a lot of charm. It was not really particularly special on the interior, but the location was amazing. And it also had an English basement apartment that we could rent and help supplement our mortgage. And so that was really important to us. And that was a way that we could get into this neighborhood. So I kind of knew going in, like, okay, we can just make this work. You know, we can improve upon what is inside the house, but like the location we can't change, and that's amazing. And that's what we're really paying for. And then we had this basement we could rent. So initially when we moved in, we didn't have to do too much because it functioned fine, but it definitely evolved over time. So we started with just some aesthetic updates to the home, and we lived with it for a while. And then back in 2021, like it was like right on the edge of the pandemic, we finally pulled the trigger and we did a complete whole home gut renovation. And at that point, we were able to connect our English basement so we could gain use of that space, and then really just take the whole house down to the studs and improve all of the unsexy stuff. So like we updated all of our systems and electrical and all of that, you know, not fun stuff. But then we also had the opportunity in putting it back together to put some of the charm back into the house, which was always my goal, was, you know, we can add the charm back in. And that was what I wanted to do with that large renovation. So that, you know, we moved out. That took about a good year for the construction. And then since then, and you know, now a couple of years later, I'm still finally finishing up like all of the final like finishing touches and layers. So there's still some projects to do. I mean, I'm always like designing, and also sometimes it's hard when I do it all day, like when I come home on, you know, on the weekends to like be focused on my house, sometimes I just run out of energy, but I'm getting there. So it's kind of a never-ending project. But yeah, so that's where we are now, is just like finally wrapping up the furnishing and the decorating and just putting that final layer into the home. So now we'll go into the dining room, which is just a few feet away. Here in our dining room, you know, it really is kind of a pass-through space, we call it, which is very common in row homes here in DC. So I tried to make sure that it's grounded and has its own purpose and feels like its own space. And so a few ways that we do that are by having, you know, a rug, making sure you have a light fixture centered over your table. It usually means it's not centered in the room. That's important. We see that a lot, that mistake. So, you know, making sure your fixture is centered over your table. And then here we also went for a large scale piece of art, which helps this area feel even more grounded. This particular piece, my husband and I both really loved. It's a Zan Padron. He's a photographer. And he does these amazing works where he sets up a camera and just like takes photos in one point in different cities around the world. This one's in Chelsea in New York. I love the light blue background of the wall here. And we love like all these people in the picture. Sometimes when we sit here at the table, we like make up like little stories, and, you know, we talk about like, what's this person doing? And like, you know, just kind of get into the detail of it, which is really fun. This dining table is a vintage dining table I've had for many years. It's a Paul McCobb table, mid-century. It's mahogany with this like beautiful little brass band around it, which I love. It has like, I think I have 7 leaves for this table, which I have never used all 7 of them, but it is really nice because something we have to do often here is, you know, for our everyday living, I don't need all those leaves in the table, but when we host, super easy, like expand it. We have space, we can open it up, and then we can host a lot more people. But our everyday lives, like we don't need that much space, so we keep it a little smaller. We do use this table like all the time. I feel like in these homes, for what, you know, when you think about like price per square foot and what you're paying here in the city, like I am a big believer in like we need to use all of our space. So this table is, we have dinner here, my daughter does homework here. This is really, you know, super functional for us. We spend a ton of time here. The chairs, also vintage, had them recovered in this Zac and Fox fabric that I love very much. So over on this side of the dining room, you kind of notice a theme. I have another vintage little cabinet here. This guy actually, this is where all of internet and modem and all of like those wires come into the house. So I needed a solution to hide them. So I got this little, it was an old Swedish record player that we took out the inside, and all of that stuff lives here. So that's what this guy's job is. And then this rubber tree plant I rescued from a client where it was not doing so great. So she let me take it, and I've been nursing it back to health, and it loves this window, so it's doing great. I keep my stack of magazines here. So like this is my like ritual on the weekend. I have like my stack of all my design magazines, and I like to sit here at the dining table and I just like go through them and like methodically like read them cover to cover, like in the morning before like everybody's up and all the like activities have commenced. So this area serves as a little bit of our transition from like dining to kitchen. It also gives us a little bit of a drop zone because where you walk into our front door, it's pretty tight. We don't have a ton of space. So this little cabinet serves as storage. Like this is where we'll put mail, stuff like that when it comes in. And then again, just this cabinet storage, like you have to get so creative with storage. So like finding cabinets and pieces of furniture for storage has been super critical. This is a piece I sourced from Cherish, and I love it. It has this like pretty like tonal checkerboard type pattern and this like cute little hardware that I love. And then we just have one of our extra dining chairs, which you'll see its partner over in the kitchen too. But like that guy just hangs out here and gets a ton of use. My daughter puts her shoes on in the morning, heads out the door. Like this is like a super functional little, it doesn't look like much, but it's kind of like a workhorse of a space for us, like is part of our routine. This is where everything kind of lands. We say it's historic homes for modern families. And, of course we love to do all kinds of houses, but our like real passion is focusing on historic properties and updating them in a way that works for modern living. I grew up just outside Philadelphia in Bucks County, which if you're familiar with that area, it is very old. It's a lot of old like Revolutionary War era towns. And so that's where I grew up. So I grew up in old homes. I love old houses. I love creaky floors. I love wavy glass. Like those are just things I feel like they give me butterflies. They make me excited. And I also understand, that sometimes those things need to be updated. And I feel like, a lot of people do it wrong. And I've seen a lot of people do it wrong over the years. So I feel like really excited and passionate about making updates to these older homes in ways that honor the house, respect the architecture, they feel natural, but yet, also understanding that in order for these homes to have longevity, they have to be updated in ways that make sense for how we live today. So I think the roots of it come from, where I grew up and how I grew up, and then also just an extension of how I live. And I understand that, I need modern amenities and families need modern amenities, and like, how do we make that work and how do we blend the two? Yeah, in terms of my team, the team I have is amazing. And I think it's really important to me that the folks on my team, like we share the same values and like we all feel passionate about the same things and in like kind of the same way. So our studio is based in the historic district in Capitol Hill, like we're right in it. And the rest of the team, kind of has that shared value, which really helps. And they get excited about the same thing. So we can all like geek out over these like historic details and stuff like that we want to try to save, and then think about like, okay, how do we improve this? Like, how do we make this flow better? How do we improve upon what's here? But like always going back to honoring what exists and what's worth kind of highlighting and saving. Okay, so from here we can walk into the kitchen. This kitchen it's quite long, and this was a little bit of a challenge, and I thought a lot about how I wanted to design it. I do really like the function of a galley kitchen. I didn't feel the need to have an island. I really preferred a kitchen table. So you'll see in the back, we have a little built-in banquette and a little table and a chair. for our family, it works really well and it's perfect. So that was something really important to me. I'm a kitchen table girl, so I opted for that over trying to do an island situation in here. And also in the kitchen, you know, I wanted to bring that theme of like carrying that walnut through. So I decided to do these counter resting cabinets in walnut. I did both of them with glass. Part of the reason is when I host, I really like people to feel at home, and I want people to feel like you can help yourself. And so you can see where everything is. It's super easy. Like this end of the kitchen is kind of our bar area. All of the glasses are here. All of the alcohol is here. Like you can help yourself. The other end a little further down is like dishes, glassware. So people just feel it's real easy to just come in and like jump in or, you know, get yourself something. And having the counter resting cabinets is super helpful too, because again, for my daughter, I need her to be able to participate and, you know, set the table and put her stuff away. And so having the cabinets resting on the counter means like she can reach everything. She can find everything. So there's no like, I don't know where this goes situation. So, so that just makes it super easy, like, and for everyone to kind of be involved. And I love that. For countertop material, we decided to go for marble. This is Carrara marble, which is pretty ubiquitous and actually pretty affordable. There's some, you know, controversy around marble being durable, and that's usually folks' like number one question. So I say it's a personal choice. I don't mind that this marble will patina, it will get some etching. That's okay with me. I am comfortable with that. I also am someone who constantly is cleaning, so that's just my personality. So like that, I'm comfortable doing that. If you're a low maintenance person and if every little ding or little mark is gonna bother you, then I say maybe marble's not for you. But for us, it felt like the right choice. I love the natural beauty that marble offers. So we decided to go for marble for the countertop and then also for the backsplash, just to keep this side of the room really simple. And what we actually did with this backsplash, and I don't know if you can tell, but you know, because we have these counter resting cabinets, I didn't want to have any depth to the backsplash. So we actually have made it flush with the wall. So this took a little bit of engineering from the team to cut out the wall and make sure when we returned this marble up that it sits perfectly flush. And then that allows me to have these counter resting cabinets just sit perfectly flush and be secured to the wall as well. And something else in this area while I'm over here that we did with the countertop and this window is we made the window counter height. So we were able to extend the countertop and give a little extra depth here. I love to have flowers and plants. So this is just a spot where I have a little bit more space to like have fresh flowers or, you know, just be able to spread out a little bit. And so extending that countertop kind of that became the windowsill, and that gave us an opportunity to do that here. And then we also pulled, because this is such a long run of cabinets on this side of the kitchen, we pulled the sink cabinet a little bit forward and we just did a little detail here with the stone, like a nice little curve, and then just to create a little additional depth and interest, we have the sink cabinet pulled a little bit forward. So then right down the middle of the room, we have this beautiful vintage runner. This runner I've had for many, many years. We have a lot of vintage rugs and we source a lot of vintage rugs on our projects. This particular one, I've had it for so long, I don't remember where this one came from, but for a lot of the rugs you see in the house and for a lot of our projects, we partner with a local vintage rug vendor called Passerine Home. And it's another women-owned business, local to us. We have a great relationship with her because something she allows us to do is see the rugs in person before we pull the trigger, which is just a really nice added benefit and something too, like as designers, like that we kind of get that little bit of inside information because it's so hard to tell online what things look like. So over here, this is kind of a moment in the kitchen, and this really was something that I always had in my brain when I was designing this kitchen for such a long time, like dreaming. What I really wanted to use, and I don't remember where this obsession started, but I have always been a huge fan of Delft tiles, and specifically I love these Delft tiles in this sepia color, these are much more unusual. They're a little harder to source. Like usually Delft tiles, you see it's that blue and white, like that's like very the typical Delft. So for just such a long time, I've been, so obsessed with these, and I wanted to use them somewhere. So this really was kind of the start for me, like the jumping off point. And this also informs like what you see some of like throughout the house. I think that this color in this tile, like this purpley kind of brownish eggplanty color, you see in my living room, and it like just gives other, it shows up in small ways in other places, which is really fun. So yeah, so I just decided to keep it here. In this moment just behind the range. And then we did this custom paneled paneling around the hood. And here we repeated that turtle green color that you see out in the living room, showing up in the built-ins. And there we had some reading detail, but here is like a little bit of a wider paneling. And this does feel a little bit more European, which is something I'm really drawn to. So, the combination of the Dutch Delft tiles and like kind of bringing in like this like hood moment and this paneling is like brings in a little bit more of that European feel. And then with bringing in these colors and the walnut is, why I went for something a little more neutral and taupey in all of the base cabinets, because I didn't want to compete and I kind of wanted those to be the colors and the moments in the room. So then the base cabinets are just kind of like a nice neutral taupey color. So here in the kitchen, we managed to tuck in a little tiny powder room. It's really the only spot for it on the first floor. It's really small. What we did in here was just like a fun little pinstripe wallpaper, super simple, the tiniest of sinks with a pretty little brass waterworks faucet and fixture. And here, just keeping it really simple, but did like a mahogany paint on all of the trim and everything. Trying to dress it up, and it's like the smallest possible bathroom you can have. So now I'm gonna take you over to the breakfast nook, which was a really important space in the layout when I was designing the kitchen. It's, we don't have much room. We're a small family. So just having a small table, this little banquette seat in the corner with these windows kind of framing the space. And then we have an extra, this is one of our extra floater chairs. You saw its partner over in the dining room. And again, like this is a vintage chair that we had recovered, which we love to do. We get so much mileage out of this little corner of the house. It's really one of my favorite spots in the whole house. This is where we read the paper. We still have the paper from Sunday hanging out here. This is where we have breakfast in the morning. All of the morning activities happen here. So this is just like a super busy nook, and one of the sunniest little spots in the house actually is back here. So we really love it. And it was really important to me that the kitchen had a little seating and gathering place, because we all end up hanging out in the kitchen anyway. So just really wanted to make sure we could accommodate that. So this table, this is actually new, but it has a really kind of more classic and traditional look to it. It has a marble top, which is super durable and functional. It's held up really, really well. And then the banquette here in the corner, I had this made by my upholsterer. It has a back, which is super easy to make, and then the cushion seat. And then underneath this banquette, we have more storage as well. So if you lift up the cushion, we have, the top of the bench lifts up. We have doors like on piano hinges so that you have more storage underneath here. And then what I did was paired, the fabric from the bench matches the fabric in the chair. I don't always like everything to be too matchy-matchy, but in this instance, I thought it was a little unexpected and that it worked well. And then it's a fun way to bring this pattern from the kitchen, out into the living room when these chairs kind of float as supplemental seating when we host. So it brings a little bit about that color and pattern out into the rest of the house as well. So this little sconce is one of my favorite lights in the whole house. So in the evening, I love when we have all the lights out, but I just have this particular light on because it gives such a lovely glow. This is a light from Urban Electric, and then I did this custom pleated shade. And what's fun fact, the fabric on this shade is actually the fabric on the front, the two little pair of chairs in our bay window. Again, like not wanting everything to feel too matchy, but having this fabric in a pleat, like it kind of disguises the pattern a little bit. So it's just kind of fun. The way it looks on the chairs feels very different, but yet like we're repeating the same like colors and pattern like throughout the house. And again, just trying to make that connection because it is all one space, even though it's in a small detail, but like bringing what's in the back of the house, like all the way through to the front, to make sure everything feels connected. So this is just like one little fun detail and way that I did that. Okay, so I have a couple of these little prints here in the kitchen. It's like a fun little pair of prints that I got at Miss Pixie's here in DC, which is a great vintage shop over downtown. And I just bought these many years ago and they've like always followed me around. And so I found a little home for them here. So just like have this vintage pair hanging out in the kitchen. Okay, so now I'm gonna take you out back to our patio. One of the biggest selling points of this house, besides the location, was this back patio. So we have this, it's not very big, but our little slice of heaven back here and our patio, it's just big enough for us. And so we did renovate this space when we moved in, and we put in new cedar fencing. We did a built-in kitchen. And then I'm always kind of gardening and working on the garden, so like a container garden. So you kind of see that going on a little bit as well. So it's something fun that Bea and I like to do together. But something we love about the space is because what we have here, which is really rare in the city, is a lot of privacy. So we don't have neighbors close to us that can see over into our little, postage stamp lot here, which is really great. And when we entertain and host, like this is primarily where we're gathering. We love to grill. We love to have people over for dinner. The kids can play, whatever. And like this is where we're usually spending our time. Typically best time is fall and spring. Sometimes the summer is a little rough in DC, but we get a ton of use of it, a ton of use of the space, really most of the rest of the year. We'll grill out here in like January. So this is one of our favorite little spots. So one of the bigger investments that we did make out here in this space was adding a built-in kitchen area. So we have a built-in like grill, countertop, and then a place for the gas. And again, just a little bit more storage out here with such limited space, like going in this direction just helps us make the most of the little bit of space that we did have out here. Okay, so now we'll head up to my daughter's room upstairs so you can follow me up. This is my daughter Beatrice's room. It's very small, but again, pretty typical in these row homes. It's actually one of my favorite rooms in the house. It's so cozy. She gets great light and it really does have everything that she needs. So a few things in here to point out are one of her requirements. She's 9. Having a pink bed was a requirement she had. So we did this pink Jenny Lind style bed. This is new. Creighton Kids is a great resource for kids stuff. So we got that from there. She picked out this quilt on her own. She loves it. This quilt is from Schoolhouse. And then we have this quilt at the foot of the bed. This was made by a dear family friend of ours when she was born. So that's very special to us, and that like hangs out there. The canopy was also something she really wanted and she loves and like adds to the cozy factor. So lots of cuddling and stuff happening in here, and it's like one of our favorite things in the evening to sit and read and hang out in here. And one of my favorite features in the room is the wallpaper. This wallpaper is a replica of historic wallpaper from like the late 1800s. The theme is kind of, when I'm selecting something historic, it's really nice to select something from the time period from when the house was built. I like to do that. I think it's a fun way to say, like, this is kind of what was in fashion at that time. So it's a reproduction of that. And we love the colors. My daughter loves it. Like, there's all these little like squirrels and birds. And again, just kind of like, we talk about like the different little like birds and like what's happening in this paper. And she loves it. I would really like to do the whole room. She only let me do one wall, so we did this wall where it has the biggest impact. And then, we just have like her basics, her books here, which we're kind of outgrowing this as she's getting older. And then we repeated the same kind of style in the furniture, but brought in some of that dark finish that we have downstairs in the wood, bringing that up into her room. So Beatrice loves movies and art and theater and performing. So some of the things that you see here, we saw Hamilton not too long ago. We have her Hamilton playbill. Last year we took her on family vacation. We went to LA so she could go to the movie studios and really like experience what it feels like to be in a studio. And so that was like a really fun trip. So she has her little Warner Brothers thing. I forget what it's called. So that is from our trip. And also we're like super big into Harry Potter. So you see a lot of Harry Potter going on. And so that's like a big part of our lives. It's something we talk about a lot. And you don't see Taylor Swift represented here, but that's like another popular topic of conversation in the house at the moment. So we have like the same kind of leg detail. This is a custom vanity stool from Nikki Kehoe that we love, that works perfectly as her desk chair. Yeah, and then the nightstand kind of goes with all of that as well. So this is our hall bath. This is primarily my daughter's bathroom. So I really wanted it to reflect her. She picked out the wallpaper. So it's this cute little polka dot Sandberg wallpaper. We did a little tile pattern on the floor, a custom vanity, and then again went for the marble countertops in this space and stuck with the brass fixtures as well. So I wanted it to feel girly and feminine, but I at the same time think that she'll be able to grow into this space. Even though it is polka dots, it still kind of has like a little bit of a sophisticated feel to it. And the pink's not too pinks. I think, my hope is that this is going to serve her for a long time. For me, home is a place first and foremost that everyone needs to feel safe, and you need to feel like it's a safe space where you can be yourself and you can really unwind and be your most vulnerable. And I think, to do that, you want to make sure your environment brings you joy and is a place that isn't causing you stress. It should be peaceful and calm. And whatever that means to you as an individual, like however you thrive, So first and foremost, that's what I think about is like home is a safe place. A lot of our clients are super busy and they have really busy lives and big jobs, and home should be a place where they can come to and just really feel like it's where they can truly relax and be themselves. And that's something we're always holding. It's why all of our homes and spaces look a little bit, they all look different, and it's because they reflect the people who live there, so that, their most personal space feels personal to them and just feels like a place they can really feel safe and relax. And for me, that's really important. And I want everyone in my home to feel like you're welcome to go get yourself something to drink, like put your feet up, like make yourself at home. Like that's the kind of vibe in my house that I want to create. And so we try to, make sure that that's how everyone is like living their lives. Thank you so much, Homeworthy, for coming and taking a tour of my house today. Until next time, see you later. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.